Good morning. Here we are. It's Monday morning. Welcome, and I'm so glad you found us. It's Monday Momentum. We're here every Monday to help you get your week started with the right kind of energy. You know you've heard this story before, and we're not going to go into a lot of detail because we want to dive right into the meat of our talk today. We know that you don't have time to waste, so we're not going to waste any for you. It's your Momo team. What we're talking about today is introversion, and hopefully there's a gazillion introverts watching, and a few extroverts might have a little bit of interest. But there is this tendency among a lot of us to think that somehow one might be better than the other, and actually they're both very valuable. And all three of the people that are going to be talking on the Hangout today, I think, would call themselves introverts. I certainly would. So what I wanted to tell you a little bit about before we started chatting was how this came to be a topic for us today. And the way it started is my wonderful 20-year-old son put a graph up on, or a series of graphs up on his Facebook page and then tagged me in it. And when I saw them, I was like, oh my God, this is me completely. And I know that Linda Kay has one of them, and I would love it if you can figure out how to show it to us. There it is. So now we've got to share, no, I've got to do this, Hangouts. Come on, come on, come on. There it is. So the perks of being an introvert. This is just one in a series of graphs, and if you want to see the rest of them, you can certainly go to my Facebook page, and we may be able to figure out how to get it to you some other way, but that's one way. So this is one of the things that I loved about it. There was many that were very funny, but this one is, hey, there are some benefits. That you have a strong sense of self, you have a great imagination, really good at listening, really good at thinking, and then, of course, some funny things here. When you're an introvert, you have a perfect excuse to stay home and watch Netflix, which is pretty much what I do every night. And you'd definitely be chill, stranded alone on a desert island for a while, since you can entertain yourself with your own thoughts. So thank you so much, Linda, for sharing that. And that's exactly, how my son felt and how I felt. And so, of course, I shared it on Facebook, and then a few of my friends, like Leslie, who I'll introduce in just a minute, responded saying, yeah, that's me, yeah, that's me. And, for me, anyway, I had an experience a long time ago when I was working in the hospitality industry where we were given a survey or a way to measure your personality or whatever. And there was about 15 or 20 of us in this room. It was a training class. And then we were asked to go stand in a corner, depending on which one we were, if we were extrovert or introvert, because that was what it was measuring. And everybody went to one corner except me. I went to the other corner. And there was so much pressure in those few moments that we spent talking about what does this mean, kind of, that I was supposed to be there with them. There was something wrong with me that I was over there. And I don't know, perhaps in the hospitality industry you need to be an extrovert to be successful, but I don't believe that, because I just listed all those skills that introverts have that you might need once in a while in your business, even in a hotel resort. But it felt so uncomfortable, and it felt, I didn't like it, and I didn't want to have to be someone different, and it was based on crazy things. But I had actually gotten sort of reprimanded in that job because I liked to sit and read a book during my break, and that was not acceptable. I was supposed to talk to people. And I had been sat down and told, when you do this, people think that you're, not nice. And I was like, well, it's my break. Why can't I read? If they want to talk to me, they can come talk to me. It just was bewildering to me. And so, it was much later that I learned one of the attributes, or one of the ways to define introversion, is an introvert is someone who gets recharged, gets reinvigorated by going off by themselves and having some time to think and to process whatever has been going on. And if they don't get that, they don't feel very good. And that is me. It's not that I don't like people or want to be with people. It's that if I don't get time to go away and be quiet, I'm not very good at much. And that's just kind of the opposite of extroverts, who get their energy from being around people. So that's my little story. I'm wondering if our guests have one of their own. But first, we'll introduce them a little bit. You know, Linda, why don't you introduce yourself, and then I'm going to cheer Leslie on to our crowd. So.
Well, good morning. This is Linda Kay, and I am a website designer, developer, and consultant. And, you know, I got to say, Sarah, I'm either on the introverted side of an extrovert or the extroverted side of an introvert. I can't figure out which. But I know I don't fit squarely in either one of those camps. And as I looked at that chart, I really like most of them. When I look at it, it says, you know, strong sense of self. Okay, we're there. Great imagination. We're there. Knack for listening most of the time. Deep thinking skills most of the time. But sometimes I really like to think out loud versus, you know, just all in my head. But the perfect excuse to stay home and watch Netflix, I'm there, and chilling on that stranded island, I am there. So I just got to say that, you know, I don't fit perfectly in either one of the boxes, but I tend to lean a little bit sometimes on the introverted side, unless I'm really comfortable. And I have to say that these hangouts are a stretch for me, but I am getting much more comfortable with it because, Sarah, you are so inviting and comfortable. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you. It was a surprise, and I really appreciate it. We're having a little echo, so I'm going to lean back. I really, you know, I think that it's a continuum, just like many, many other things. You know, whether or not you're 100% introvert, you know, there's probably somebody out there that is much so, and we all have different amounts of it. But the fact that I'm terrified of being on the island tells me that there are people out there that are really scared of that. So I want to take a minute to introduce Leslie. I'm so happy that she's here with us today. Leslie Knight is a friend of mine, and I've been lucky enough to work with her, having her lead us and staff, our staff at CES, hear us talk about a lot. She's an amazing leader. She does such a great job all the time of helping all the colleagues do a great job and put on a great show and bring out our strengths. And I know that she's an expert so much on the different ways that men and women think, which is a whole other topic that I hope we'll get a chance to speak about sometime. And that, of course, is a continuum too, because all of our brains are a little bit different. But for the introversion, I know that when like I told you earlier, when I put it up on Facebook, Leslie was like the first person to say, oh, I like this. I'm like, yeah. Okay. It made real sense to me that she would resonate with it, and so I invited her to join us today. So I know that she has expertise around introversion as well, but I'm wondering, first off, Leslie, when we introduce, tell us a little bit about your leadership abilities and how introversion helped you with that, or it was a benefit in your opinion, and a little bit about the work that you're doing. That would be great, just so that people can have a chance to call for you later if they want to. And Leslie has not been able to do her lower third, so if you're looking for it, I wrote it in the chat box. So here's Ms. Leslie Knight. Woo.
Morning. You broke up there as you were speaking, so I lost part of what you were after. The question was, how did introversion help as far as leadership goes? And it's interesting in that people didn't notice the introvert, they noticed the attributes. They noticed someone who would listen well, someone who was paying attention to details. Kind of like you, they didn't appreciate that whenever it was time for lunch, I wanted to go hide somewhere. I've had all I can deal with people. It's time to go away for a little bit. I need to recharge. But all of those little things combined meant that I was a powerhouse for the afternoon. Sitting down in meetings, people already knew I had thought out everything that needed to be done for whatever project was we were going to do. I wasn't going to speak unless I already knew what was going to happen. And it's not a sense of uncertainty, it's just The extrovert speaks in order to think. They've got to put it all out there. The introvert thinks in order to express their thoughts. So it's an inside-out versus an outside-in approach. And in an oil company where you have a lot of men, which is what it was like back in the 80s, that different style stood out. And it stood out in a very positive way. Linda mentioned your inviting style. Well, an introvert has something of an inviting style that invites the extroverts to come and talk to us. And we manage their conversations so that it actually turns into something productive. We have a different style for managing conflict. Well, you sat in a brainstorming session, all the extroverts are up there pounding things on walls. The introvert comes in, they put the pieces together, and then it starts to take shape. An extrovert sees conflict as passionate engagement. That's not what an introvert sees. We see it not necessarily as something to be avoided, but it's an indication of a challenge or a problem. And what do we do when we have challenges or problems? We go off and think about it. We don't want to sit there and engage head-to-head with someone. We need to think through what the challenge is. We need to think our solutions, then come back and have a conversation. So when we're dealing with extroverts, we learn different ways to manage them. And it's only been in the last few years people actually started to talk about the differences between the two and how we work differently and how we're both valuable. So most of what you learned, most of what I learned, most of what Linda's learned has been trial and error. Go figure it out.
So thanks. The School of Hard Knocks is kind of what I think you meant when you said trial and error. It's like, oh, okay, there's something different about me. And for me, as I said, I mean, that was 20-some years ago. I felt a lot of pressure, and that there was something wrong with me. And we feel that perhaps for lots of different reasons while we're trying to figure out who we are. And so it was just one more thing that, oh, okay, there's something weird about me because I want to read. Wow, I've got to give up reading? Oh, I don't know. But
Susan Cain in her book talked about that phenomena that you're talking about right now. There was a lot of pressure to make introverts into extroverts, starting in about the 1960s. And that's what all of us are about the same age. That's what was starting to show up in the 1980s and 1990s as we were hitting the workforce. As a nation, we were mostly introverted prior to the 1960s. And someone figured out that it was the character, or not the character. They figured out that if you seemed bubbly, seemed friendly, and so on and so forth, then people would buy from you. So in order to make a sale, you needed to do this. In the hospitality industry, what's it about? It's about making sales, getting people to come to the resort, getting them to come back. You have to be bubbly, friendly, outgoing, so on and so forth. Not a whole lot of room for the thinker. But yet the thinkers are the ones that are observing all the details about the guest's stay. The thinkers are the introverts are the ones that are saying, oh, if we change this guest will have a better experience. So it's just two different ways of approaching the problem. But there has been a push, and I would imagine a lot of the people, unless it were, did you guys do like a Myers-Briggs?
Leslie, I don't remember what the survey was, and they didn't call it introversion and extroversion. They called it like social and antisocial. I mean, it was not. It was truly, the environment was like a measurement of, do you fit in here or don't you? And I remember having to make a decision internally to, I'm going to go stand in the corner that I know I belong in. So I felt like I wanted to be over there.
There are a lot of kids today that are in colleges like Harvard where you have to be an extrovert to succeed. It's about personality. And they are really closet introverts. They'll do the extrovert thing during the day because that's what they have to do in order to succeed at school, but once they get to the end of the day, they're done.
Mm-hmm.
So
the pressure is still there. I was saying the pressure is still there because I was hopeful that, I mean, you're speaking about Susan Cain's book, and tell us again in a second what the name of it is, because there will be people out there who want to read it. The pressure is still on, and that's unfortunate. I have felt like it's better, maybe only because I learned this wonderful thing a few years ago about, oh, that's what's different. We just get our energy a different way, and everything else is, somehow that comforted me hugely. That's all I can say. And I feel as though I can say that to people. It's like, this is me, and this is why I do this, and it doesn't mean anything else about anything else. So, excuse me, I'm going to leave now. It's a wonderful release to be able to see that and learn that. And I would love to think that if I went back to that resort I used to work at, that by now they know that too, that, oh, okay, there's a couple different types, and if we're going to put them at the front desk where they have to deal with people, or in the restaurant, maybe the extrovert's better. But if they're going to be in accounting or strategic planning of the marketing for this next 5-year plan, maybe it's okay that they're an introvert. Maybe we actually want that. I would hope, but it sounds like it's still a lot of pressure. And boy, at Harvard, they ought to know better.
So, Leslie mentioned the book by Susan Cain. I pulled up the Amazon thing. Let me share it again here. I found it really interesting, the title of some of these books. Quiet, the power of introverts in a world that can't stop talking. Mm-hmm. Silence, the power of quiet in a world full of noise. Quiet, the power of introverts. Oh, that's the same one over there, different book cover.
Yep.
Yeah, so it looks like there's several book covers here, several different people, but, quiet power strategy, the quiet power indicators, measuring governance, corruption, and rule of law. So, lots of attention happening for introverts, so that's really cool.
But the question is it helping? I mean, if there are plenty of extroverts that might be surprised that 3 introverts are sitting here on a TV show or whatever we want to call this, talking at all, because there's this negative, an introvert is somebody that wants to go and hide in a corner and never talk to people at all, and yet this strength that obviously there is a strength there. Is there a way to help people recognize it? Because if you're not very vocal and the world can't stop talking, how do you get heard if talking is the preferred way of being heard? Are there strategies? Was there anything that you've seen during your time in leadership, Leslie, that has been a way to support other introverts to help them help them shine in their corners of whatever the work was that they were doing?
The introvert's going to shine. You almost can't help it. But what we have to get comfortable doing is talking about our accomplishments, being able to, without being obnoxious, say what we've done. And there are a variety of ways to do that. You can talk about an accomplishment, from the perspective of it's simply, a verb, followed by a measurement, followed by how we did it. It's a very simple formula. We reduce scheduled downtime by 50% over the last 2 years by implementing automation, something simple like that. But you can state your accomplishments very powerfully. State them in the appropriate venues. There's lots of places that you guys can do that. Social media now makes it acceptable to brag about anything you've done. You state your accomplishments there. Now, most of us don't do that in a business form, but LinkedIn would be a good place for it. introverts need to get involved in small talk. Most of us don't enjoy the idle chit-chat. But in order to be a leader, you need to show an interest in the people that are working with. And the way you do that is by being engaged in the small things that are going on in their lives. That's kind of like your boss telling you you can't go read a book. Well, fine, go read your book, socialize at the water cooler. Do other things during the day that show an interest in the people around you. Those are probably the two biggest things. You're going to get known for your results.
Well, thank you, and I think there's a lot more to it, and I love the way that you are living it for us, because it's quite clear. Take a minute to think about what you're going to say, and it's a struggle sometimes with me because I feel as though we can't have dead air, but that's exactly the power and the gift that an introvert brings, is that they're going to give you an answer that's well thought out. They're not just going to blurt something out. So for those of you who are introverts that are wondering, what can I do to help myself? Obviously, this book, Susan Cain, and it's called The Power of Quiet, I wish we could wave it at you, is a start. It sounds like there's many, if nothing else, comforting pieces of information, and I bet there's more than that, but I haven't read it yet, so I'll have to tell you more later. And then get comfortable talking about your accomplishments. Find a way to be able to do that if you're not already, so that people notice them, because if they're not, then they may pass you by. I think most times people do. They're just, kind of bewildered by the way that we operate in the world, and so they're not sure how to approach it if they are extroverts and we're introverts. And then getting skilled at small talk. This is something, I love the way you said that we call it small talk, and there's sort of a judgment right there. Small, not important, trivial. And of course, what does that mean? Just because it's not about work, or is it because we, are ready to get down to it? At least for me, this is one of my introvert traits that gets me in trouble a lot, is that I kind of don't value that, and so I irritate people who do. And so learning that skill has helped me a lot, and learning to speak about it with people, so that if I stumble and are too sort of down to earth and let's get going, and I don't want to spend time talking about those things, I can go back and clean it up later and say, I'm sorry, I realize that's my style, but it may not be yours, instead of assuming, which I think we do when we're younger, that everybody thinks exactly the same way we do. So is there one or two other tidbits that you might want to add? We're almost out of time. It's amazing how fast this goes. But about introversion in general, or encouragement that you can offer, Leslie? Or Linda, either one?
Well, I could jump in with that. I think during this conversation that we're having here, it kind of helped me remember how I started flipping to the other side. I believe I chose web development because I could deal with machines and not people. And I didn't have to be in that environment. I could just concentrate on what I wanted to do, and machines, they're so much easier to get along with. Yes, they give us grief, but not the people factor. But as a web developer, I do have to interact with my clients. I have to understand what they need. I have to understand what, we're bringing to the marketplace. So I think probably that's what helped me be a little more on the extroverted side, is because although my love and passion for working machines and people, and I don't have to deal with drama, I do have to deal with people, and I think that's what helped me. So, find the right job, and it'll help you.
So another tidbit for an introvert is, find the right job. Don't force yourself to work at that front desk. but find a way to get the human interaction you want in a way that that works for you. Because we do want it. We want it like crazy. And we're often very lonely, but we, don't want it in the middle of a giant crowd of people for more than about 10 minutes. At least that's how I am. Anything to add to that, Leslie? Not really? Well, I think that we are just about on time. Leslie, would you take a minute to talk a little bit about your business and how people might be able to connect with you and work with you? Or can you hear me?
You can find me at custombusinesssuccess.com. And as far as working with me, everything I do is customized. I can work with the introverts or the extroverts. I take people where they are and work with their teams from that perspective. So if you got an introvert that would like to step into leadership, happy to talk to them. If you've got an extrovert that needs to deal with introverts, we can help them there.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm just
Thanks
thrilled.
for the opportunity.
Linda, would you like to go ahead and sign out, and then I'll wrap it up because it's almost time.
All right. Well, Linda K, Interactive Synergy. Feel free to reach out to me, linda@interactivesynergy.com.
Great. Thank you, Linda. And I'm Sarah Coolidge. You can see my name down there. And we're here every Monday to help you get your week started. We know what it's like to be working from home, all the distractions. So we're here to remind you that you're not alone. And we help each other every Monday morning by talking to each other, keep ourselves accountable, keep ourselves motivated. The whole idea is if you start your week out in the right direction with the right momentum, you're going to slide into home base on Friday feeling really good about what you did all week. And so please come back next Monday. Please like our channel on YouTube, Monday Momentum. Please share like crazy. And join us. We'll be happy to see you again next week. Thanks a lot. Have a great week.
Monday.